A powerful earthquake has rocked the central Philippines. The 6.9 magnitude quake struck late at night.
Basically, the ground under the Philippines is screaming, and scientists are scrambling to understand why the normal rhythm of the Earth just vanished. With over 800 seismic events triggering massive stress transfer, the path leads directly to a fault line that supports hospitals, schools, and skyscrapers. It is not that simple, though, because this energy is moving in a relay race from the south straight to the capital. There are still many rumors in the air.
We need to be sure that our structures are strong and durable when it comes when the big one happens.
But what many can confirm is that the pressure has nowhere left to go. The crazy part is that almost no one sees the connection between these small shakes and the looming giant. Unprecedented shaking storms begin. Right now, the probability of a massive earthquake in the Philippines is reaching levels that have never been seen by modern science. In the last 30 days alone, the country has been hit by 847 earthquakes, which is a staggering jump from the usual 8 to 12. This is not just a minor increase, because we are looking at 70 times more activity than a normal month. You see, every single one of those earthquakes is doing something terrifying beneath the surface by loading stress onto the West Valley Fault. This is a 62-mile crack splitting straight through the center of Metro Manila, sitting right under the schools, hospitals, and homes where 13 million people live. This fault has not moved since 1658, meaning it has been building up pressure for 368 years. Imagine a massive metal spring that has been squeezed for nearly 4 centuries with absolutely no release. Scientists are not debating if it will break anymore, because every expert agrees that a rupture is a geological certainty. The only real question is when it will happen, and the recent swarm suggests that time is shorter than we think. These 847 earthquakes are not random events or simple aftershocks scattered across a map. They are actually connected in a way that has never been documented at this scale in recorded history. Each shake is passing energy like a relay race, moving in a chain reaction that ends exactly where the most people are located. When the West Valley Fault finally snaps, the city will face 90 seconds of violent shaking that could result in the loss of thousands of lives. It is not that simple, though, because the destruction will arrive with almost no warning for those sitting directly on top of the fault. The 62-mile line starts in Bulacan, cuts through Quezon City, and runs under the financial district of Makati. It continues through Pasig and Taguig before heading into Cavite and Laguna. This means the most densely populated areas in the entire country are sitting on a geological fracture that is ready to pop. Every office tower, every crowded neighborhood, and every underground train line is at risk. Historical records show that this fault follows a cycle of 400 to 600 years between major events. Since the last one was over 360 years ago, we are officially inside the danger window. The director of the local seismic agency has been very direct, stating that this is not speculation or a worst-case scenario. It is a fact based on centuries of data. The longer the wait, the more energy is stored in the ground. Right now, the tectonic forces are pushing the Philippine Sea plate with relentless power, but the fault remains locked tight. When it finally gives way, the ground could shift by up to 13 feet in some places. The forces released will be way beyond what most buildings were ever designed to handle. Millions of people are currently living on top of that compressed spring, and the recent tremors are adding more weight to it every single day. What most people do not realize is that the Philippines is actually a giant tectonic intersection. The entire group of islands sits where 4 massive plates are all crashing into each other at the same time. You have the Philippine Sea plate, the Pacific plate, the Eurasian plate, and the Sunda plate all pushing and pulling. Compare that to California or Japan, which only have to deal with 2 plates. The Philippines is dealing with 4 geological giants that are all meeting at the same point. This creates a pressure cooker where stress builds up from every direction with no easy way to escape. For a long time, there was a steady rhythm of about 100 measurable quakes a year. This was a balance that people learned to live with for generations. But the year 2025 has shattered that pattern completely, and the predictable rhythm is gone. What used to be manageable has turned into a situation that has experts staring at their computer screens in total disbelief. The heartbeat of the Earth is accelerating, and it is beating directly toward the capital city. The crazy part is how these faults are all connected, like a hidden network of pressure lines. An earthquake in one part of the islands does not just end there because the energy moves through the crust. It redistributes stress to every neighboring system, meaning the pressure never actually goes away. It just moves to a new spot, and lately, it has been moving toward Manila. In September, a large quake hit Cebu and resulted in many fatalities and collapsed buildings. Then, just 10 days later, a massive magnitude 7.4 hit Mindanao. This was followed by another huge aftershock only hours later, creating a double earthquake event. These were not just isolated tragedies because they sent ripples of energy through the entire network. The swarm of 847 quakes is the result of this energy moving through the system. The micro-quake activity has more than doubled compared to previous years, and the numbers are still climbing. Scientists are mostly worried about the pattern because it shows a synchronized sequence that is unprecedented. The energy from Mindanao is shifting toward the Visayas, and the stress from Cebu is moving north toward Luzon. Every single shake pushes that energy one step closer to the West Valley Fault. The domino effect is now measurable and documented in real time. Metro Manila Foundation Crisis. Basically, everyone assumes an earthquake is a local event that happens and then ends, but that is not how physics works. When a large quake strikes, the energy travels through the Earth at 5 miles per second. It races outward in every direction and physically pushes on other fault lines, changing how stable they are. Scientists call this process stress transfer, and it explains why a shake hundreds of miles away in Mindanao is a direct threat to Manila. It is like hitting the first domino in a long line that stretches across the entire archipelago. In the past, these patterns took weeks to move across the network, but right now, it is happening in hours. 7 major fault systems are reacting at the same time, which is something that has never been seen before. The islands are not just having local quakes anymore. They are part of a giant mechanical connection spanning the whole Western Pacific. Energy is being loaded onto the Luzon fault systems with every single tremor that occurs in the south. The Manila Trench is also showing signs of extreme pressure along its entire length. All this cumulative stress is being absorbed by the West Valley Fault, which is already at its limit. And get this, the moment that fault ruptures, the city will only have about 90 seconds of shaking to decide the future. In that minute and a half, over 170,000 buildings could be damaged or destroyed. High-rise towers in the business districts face the risk of failing because the seismic forces will be higher than their engineering limits. But the skyscrapers are not the only problem, because the informal settlements where millions of people live will see total devastation. These are houses built without any safety standards, packed together with no room to move. When the ground starts to roll, and those neighborhoods will come down in a matter of seconds. Then there is the issue of liquefaction, where the ground near the bay turns into something like quicksand. Reclaimed land and low areas will stop being solid, and buildings will simply sink or tip over. The Earth itself becomes the biggest enemy during those 90 seconds. Schools, hospitals, and government buildings are all sitting in the impact zone, and many might not survive the initial shock. Infrastructure will fail in a chain reaction that cuts the city off from the rest of the world. Bridges and highways will collapse, meaning the roads people need to escape will be blocked by tons of concrete. The train systems will suffer major damage, leaving thousands of people stranded wherever they happen to be. Water pipes will burst everywhere, flooding the streets while also leaving survivors with nothing to drink. Now gas lines will snap and start fires that will spread through the ruins, because fire trucks will not be able to get through the debris. The entire power grid will go dark, leaving 13 million people in total blackness while they try to figure out what happened. Experts have run the numbers and the results are staggering. We are talking about 34,000 people losing their lives in the first few minutes. Over 100,000 people will be injured, and more than 1 million will lose their homes. The suffering does not stop when the shaking ends because fires and lack of medicine will continue the crisis for weeks. Metro Manila is the heart of the economy, providing 36% of the entire country's wealth. When the business districts are destroyed, the financial impact will be felt for decades. This is not just about broken buildings. It is about the collapse of a system that keeps the country running. Recovery will not take months or years, but likely generations. In just 90 seconds, the entire future of the Philippines could be reshaped into something unrecognizable. While the local agencies have great monitoring stations and 24-hour surveillance, physics is still the boss. Stress waves move faster than any computer system we have ever built. By the time a sensor detects the start of a major rupture, the shaking is already arriving at your door. Most warning systems need at least 2 or 3 minutes to process data, but for a fault right under the city, those minutes do not exist. You cannot warn 13 million people in time when the disaster starts directly beneath their feet. The speed of the Earth is simply faster than the speed of our alerts. Tectonic collision zone chaos. The crazy part is that the warning systems we do have are facing 4 major failures. First, every country in the region monitors its own faults separately with very little talking between them. Second, the tsunami models are only built for one earthquake at a time, not a giant chain reaction like we are seeing now. Third, there are huge delays when trying to send alerts between different nations. And fourth, the computers were never designed to handle hundreds of quakes hitting the system all at once. If the Manila Trench ruptures at the same time as the West Valley Fault, we could see tsunamis that combine into massive waves. This is called wave superposition, where 2 waves stack on top of each other to become twice as tall and twice as deadly. No current safety protocol is ready for a scenario like that. This is a new class of disaster that traditional monitoring just cannot handle. We are living in an era where the threats have evolved, but our technology is still stuck in the past. But here is the catch. While the science is scary, there is a lot of work being done to try and get ready. Seismologists are watching the 62-mile rupture zone every second of every day. They have set up new stations all over the metro area to track even the smallest movements. There are huge campaigns to make sure people know about the risk and what to do when it happens. However, there is a big difference between watching a disaster and being able to stop it. The gaps in preparation are everywhere you look. Many buildings in the city were constructed long before there were any real safety codes, and they have never been fixed. Thousands of structures have never been tested against the kind of power the West Valley Fault can produce. The poorest neighborhoods have almost no protection at all, and the people living there have no choice but to stay. Evacuation routes are also a major concern, because they pass through areas that are guaranteed to be blocked by falling buildings. Emergency supplies are another huge problem, because there is simply not enough food or water stored for 13 million people. While there are regular drills in many neighborhoods, no drill can truly prepare you for the real thing. Families are being told to pack go bags with essentials, and schools are teaching kids to hide under desks. These things are important and will save some lives, but they cannot stop the ground from opening up. Experts say that we need a massive program to fix old buildings and move people out of the most dangerous zones before it is too late. International help also needs to be better coordinated, so that neighbors can help each other during a regional crisis. The weight of this situation is felt by everyone in Manila every day. Parents wonder if their kids' schools are safe, and office workers think about the height of their buildings. It is a quiet fear that stays in the back of your mind, because there is nowhere else to go. The race against time is not waiting for anyone to make a decision or find the money. Every single tremor in the current swarm is another hammer blow against the Earth. Each day that passes without the big one is just another day where the spring is being wound tighter. The fault does not care about politics or budgets. It only cares about the laws of physics. Right now, being prepared is the only thing that stands between survival and total loss. The West Valley Fault is going to break, and that is not just a guess. It is a certainty backed up by centuries of evidence and the agreement of every scientist in the field. The only unknown factor is the exact second when the Earth decides it can no longer hold the weight of 368 years of stress. That moment is getting closer with every single shake that hits the islands. The recent spike in seismic activity has changed the whole conversation from if to when. Total infrastructure failure event. In just 30 days, the 847 earthquakes have turned a distant threat into a real-time emergency. 70 times the normal amount of activity is a warning that cannot be ignored. Every shake is a message from the deep earth that the system is failing. The huge quakes in Mindanao and Cebu were just the beginning of a larger story that is unfolding right now. We are seeing dominoes fall across the entire map, and the last one in line is the capital city. The science of stress transfer has proven that these events are linked, even if they are hundreds of miles apart. Energy does not stop at the edge of a province. It moves through the crust at incredible speeds. The West Valley Fault is currently absorbing all that energy, sitting at the end of a chain reaction that gets more powerful every day. This has huge implications for the entire Western Pacific region. We now know that fault systems in different countries are connected in ways we never fully understood before. A shake in one place can put pressure on a fault in another country within a few minutes. The time when we could look at earthquakes as isolated events is over. 2025 has shown us a reactive geological network that is moving on a timeline that no government is ready for. For the people in Manila, this isn't just a science project, it is their life. It is the fear that comes with every small rattle of a window or a vibration in the floor. When the fault finally gives way, 13 million people will have 90 seconds to face a disaster with almost no warning. The question of how many will survive comes down to who took the threat seriously. The destruction will be massive, but those who are prepared will always have a better chance. The ground under the city holds the final answer to this mystery, and it is not waiting for anyone to be ready. We are looking at a total reshape of the country in less than 2 minutes. Bridges, water, power, and lives are all on the line. The current seismic swarm is the most significant warning in centuries, and it is happening right now. Everyone is watching the numbers climb and hoping that the spring holds for just a little bit longer. But hope is not a strategy when the Earth is moving. Infrastructure failure is the biggest secondary threat that most people forget to think about. When the main roads are gone and the power is out, the city becomes a series of islands that cannot help each other. Hospitals will be overwhelmed in minutes, and without water or electricity, their ability to save lives will vanish. This is why the initial 90 seconds are only the start of the catastrophe. The real test comes in the days and weeks that follow, when the millions of survivors have to find a way to stay alive in a ruined landscape. The economic heart of the nation will stop beating, and the ripples will be felt across the entire globe. The final countdown is happening in the dark, where no one can see. Technological detection speed failure. Everything we know about the West Valley Fault tells us that the pressure is at an all-time high. Scientists are using the best tools they have, but they are fighting against the speed of light and the weight of the Earth. The 62-mile line of the fault is like a sleeping giant that is starting to stir. Every one of those 847 quakes is like a poke to that giant, waking it up after a long sleep. We have to face the reality that our warning systems might be useless for the people who need them most. If the fault is under your house, you are the sensor, and the shaking is your only alert. This is a brutal truth that is hard to hear, but it is the only way to understand the true danger. The scale of the potential loss is hard to even imagine. 34,000 lives is a number that is difficult to process, but it represents mothers, fathers, and children. 170,000 buildings is not just concrete, it is the history and the future of a people. The transition from a normal life to a disaster zone will happen faster than a heartbeat. This is why the current swarm is so important, because it is giving us a look at the pressure before it explodes. We are seeing the stress transfer in real time, moving through the crust and loading up the final domino. The archipelago is a geological masterpiece of complexity. But that complexity comes with a very high price. There is no room for mistakes when the Earth is this active. Every decision made today about building safety and emergency plans will be tested very soon. The science is clear, the data is in, and the clock is ticking. We cannot stop the plates from moving, and we cannot stop the stress from building. All we can do is watch, prepare, and understand that we are living on a planet that is constantly changing. And the Philippines is at the center of this change, and the West Valley Fault is the focal point. Whether it happens tonight or next year, the big one is coming, and it will be the greatest test the nation has ever faced. The current frequency of seismic events suggests we are no longer in a period of tectonic quiet, but have entered a phase of critical instability. When a fault remains locked for over 350 years, as the West Valley has since its last major rupture in 1658, the strain energy accumulated is staggering. We are talking about a slip deficit that grows by roughly 5 to 7 millimeters every year. Over centuries, That adds up to meters of potential displacement waiting to be unleashed in a matter of seconds. One of the more unsettling theories currently gaining traction involves the concept of fluid-driven seismicity. This suggests that the 847 quakes we just witnessed aren't just the result of dry rocks grinding together. Instead, deep-seated fluids, potentially superheated water or gases trapped miles below the surface, are being forced into the fault zone. This increases the pore pressure, essentially lubricating the fault and making it easier for a massive rupture to occur. If this is the case, the swarm isn't just a sign of stress. It's a sign that the very internal chemistry of the fault is changing, reducing its friction to a breaking point. Another wilder possibility is the piezoelectric effect on a grand scale. The crust under Metro Manila is rich in quartz. When you compress quartz at the levels of pressure found 5 miles deep, it generates an electric charge. Some researchers believe that the massive buildup of stress along the West Valley line is turning the ground into a literal battery. This could explain the strange atmospheric phenomena or electronic interference sometimes reported before large events. If the fault is charging up, we might be looking at a seismic event that is preceded not just by shaking, but by a massive electromagnetic pulse that could fry local grids before the first wave even hits. The physics of the big one are unforgiving because of the specific geography of the Marikina Valley. The fault doesn't just sit in a vacuum, it sits adjacent to a sedimentary basin filled with soft alluvial deposits. This creates a nightmare scenario called seismic amplification. When the shock waves hit that soft soil, they slow down and grow in height, much like a tsunami entering shallow water. A building standing on solid rock might experience moderate shaking, while the same building a mile away on the valley floor could be subjected to forces 4 or 5 times stronger. This is where the theory of resonance comes into play. Every building has a natural frequency, a heartbeat at which it likes to sway. If the earthquake's waves match that frequency, the building will shake itself to pieces even if it is built to code. We have to consider the possibility that the sheer density of the urban landscape itself is influencing the fault. The weight of millions of tons of concrete, steel, and asphalt, combined with the extraction of groundwater, may be altering the vertical stress on the fault line. It is a feedback loop where our growth as a civilization is actually accelerating the countdown of the ground beneath us. There is also the triggering theory, which looks at the Philippine fault system as a whole. No fault is an island. The West Valley is part of a complex web of fractures. A large earthquake on a distant fault, even hundreds of miles away, can send a pulse of stress through the crust. This is known as dynamic triggering. It is possible that recent activity in other parts of the archipelago has already pushed the West Valley fault into a state of self-organized criticality. In this state, the system is so balanced on the edge of chaos that even a minor 4-magnitude quake, one of the 847, could be the microscopic grain of sand that causes the entire pile to collapse. We are looking at a mathematical inevitability where the timing is the only variable left. Some even speculate about the influence of the Earth's rotation. Minor fluctuations in the planet's spin speed can cause the lithosphere to slosh slightly, exerting a minute but decisive force on faults that are already at their limit. If the Earth slows down by just a millisecond, that extra bit of inertia might be all it takes to snap the West Valley line. What would you do if the 90-second countdown started right this second? Could Metro Manila actually survive the ultimate test of the big one? Or is it already too late for 13 million people? If you want to stay updated on this developing seismic crisis, make sure to like and subscribe for more deep dives.